I think I can still do both. I'm gonna take some time to rest because I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was doing was dangerous to come, and then that's what's happened.
Following his unexpected defeat in what was the second match of his boxing career, Francis has made the most shocking announcement. After losing his first 2 fights, the Predator has come on to give updates on the next step of his career and how he hopes to handle the situation. It's a rare announcement from the Cameroonian boxer now. Let's hear what he has to say to his supporters and the whole of boxing. Once the knockout chaos was set for the 8th of March, 2024, countless boxing professionals were quick to line in support of the Predator, most especially for his mind-blowing performance against Tyson Fury. Francis lost to Fury by a split decision, and it looked like Joshua had no chance against him. Joshua was the seeming underdog in the matchup. But after the knockout chaos told a different narrative, Francis has decided to move on from boxing. Francis, though limiting himself to few words, has some shocking news to reveal as regards his boxing career. This news comes after he took to X, acknowledging the disappointment for letting down his supporters. In his words, "Sorry guys, I let you all down. Today was a bad day in the office. I wish things could have played out little different. Thank you all for the love and the support." From his reactions after the match, he seems honest and real in his takes. And once more, he openly admits his loss and the disappointment he has brought upon his supporters. However, he appreciates them regardless. No one goes so far without immense support from his fans. However, he quickly moved on from that and made some utterances that culminated in his retirement decision. If the fight broke the hearts of his fans, then this news would do worse and shatter their hearts into irremediable pieces. When asked about how he felt about the match, he said, "It's a very sad one for me, especially to lose in the way that I did. The match against Fury was a close one and an honorable loss." One thing the match against Tyson Fury in October did to Francis, despite the loss, was that it established his reputation as a strong contender and a fighter to beat if you'll be at the top. Nonetheless, his humiliating defeat to Joshua proved otherwise, and he feels equally disappointed by it. He definitely would prefer losing the way he did to Fury, which was an honorable loss and a close call. Though Francis lost to the Gypsy King, the call was so close that a lot of fans, processionals, and commentators strongly feel Francis won the match, and the decision in Fury's favor was a very controversial one. Most recently in the post-fight press conference, when the Cameroonian referred to his match against Tyson Fury, saying Joshua did what Tyson couldn't, Anthony Joshua interrupted him, claiming he beat Fury and was the true winner of the match. "You beat Tyson, you know. You beat him."
He was quite special because he stopped me. He did what Tyson Fury couldn't done, and he wasn't my day.
Francis then puts his disappointment aside and gives credit to AJ. "AJ did well. It wasn't my day. He was better than me on the day. What surprised me most about him was his timing. I think he get the right timing."
I think he get the right timing. It was about the timing, mostly.
Contrary to his responses after the match against Fury, Francis proves to be one who isn't reluctant to give his opponents their credits, even at his own expense. He appreciates Anthony Joshua and admits to him being the best person in the ring on the day. When asked about the difference between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, Francis makes another true admission. "Well, the fight didn't go long enough for me to figure so many different things out." He ends his comments on AJ by tipping him for a win against Tyson Fury. Highs asked about who wins if Joshua was to fight Fury. I don't know. I'll give it to AJ for right now."
I don't know. I'll give it to AJ for right now.
One final one for me, obviously, the fans you had there.
He then keeps on talking about himself and admits to feeling very sad after the loss. When asked how he was feeling, he said, "Sad, yeah, I feel very sad. That's how I'm feeling. I feel very sad. I knew what I was doing was very dangerous to come after the top of the game from my beginning. That's what happened."
I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was doing was dangerous to come, and then that's what's happened.
Francis then makes the most viral of his statements, claiming he is going out of boxing, following his defeat to Anthony Joshua. It's worth remembering that Joshua sent some words of encouragement to Francis immediately after the match, while they were both in the ring. He's a great champion, and this doesn't take away any of his capabilities, because in boxing, it's one or the other, right? He can come again. Do you think Francis can come again?
Doesn't take away anything of his capabilities, because in boxing it's one or the other, right? He can come again. Do you think Francis can come again? That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
The large crowd in Saudi Arabia roared a deafening, "Yeah." Then Joshua continued, "That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, he can come again. I told him he can come again. I've told him he shouldn't leave boxing. He can do well. Remember, he's 2 fights in and he's fought the best. He can go a long way if he stays dedicated."
He can come again. I told him he shouldn't leave boxing. He can do well. Remember, he's two fights in and he's fought the best. He can go a long way if he stays dedicated, but it's up to him.
Joshua had so much praises for the Predator despite defeating him in just the second round. He claimed Francis is a great champion, and the defeat takes nothing away from him. And more than just praises, Joshua have him a push to keep on fighting in the boxing ring, and shouldn't be let down by his defeat against 2 of the best heavyweight boxers. However, Francis isn't ready to yield. Rather, he wants to stay off boxing. "I don't think I want to continue for now. I want to stay off. I need to have some rest. I'm sorry I have to say this to my supporters, but I'll keep hanging around." Sadly, the boxing tale of Francis ended just 2 episodes after its start. Following the fight against Tyson Fury, the world tipped the 37-year-old to give his boxing career some push and go ahead to face the very best. Unknowingly, in his next attempt, reality was going to set in. And now, he's decided to call it quits. "I just can't really go on with this anymore. I'm willing to take a stop to it at this point. I'm not growing younger. I'm 37 years old. Most boxers retire somewhere around the age I chose to start. I think it was a good story while it lasted." Francis seems fed up just already with boxing, and he's parked at his final station, unwilling to move an inch further. He then talks about his age, claiming his age isn't giving him good signals as regards his boxing career. He then highlights that he's hit an age where most boxers will be thinking of retirement. Meanwhile, he's just starting his career. He closes the book and says it was a good story while it lasted. When asked about his decision to retire and if his defeats to Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua were the reasons behind his early exit from boxing, he replies that, "Look at it this way. If I won against AJ, I'll have a chance to fight the winner of Fury versus Usyk. To an extent, I'll say the defeats led to my decision, but there are other factors as well. Some of them are personal and others are known. So the defeats are the popular reasons, but there are others as well." Like he's been doing in most of his interviews, Francis renders an honest admission and states the rationale behind his retirement. He claims the defeats were parts of the reasons, being the known and general reasons. This is very true because a victory over Joshua would have most likely seen him fight the winner between Usyk and Tyson Fury again, cementing his stay in the sport. Notwithstanding, he claims he has some personal reasons for quitting boxing, and not all his reasons are well known. Lastly, Francis is asked if he will rest from combat sports generally, or he sees the MMA as a ground to fall back on. In response, he says, maybe MMA, but right now, I'm going to take some time to rest. That's what matters now. I'm going to take some time out for now, then maybe MMA. Francis's journey in MMA ended on the 14th of January, 2023, after he was stripped of his UFC heavyweight championship because he and the UFC could not come to terms on a new contact.
He's in a place right now where he doesn't want to take a lot of risk. Feels like he's in a good position where he could fight lesser opponents and make more money. So we're gonna let him do that. We're going to release him from his contract.
His contract expired in mid-December 2022, and since there was no agreement, the UFC waived its 1-year matching rights clause, leading to the Predator being an unrestricted free agent. Francis once stated in an interview that he had requested sponsorships for UFC fighters, health insurance, and a fighter advocate present in all fighter contract negotiations. His requests were denied, and as a result, Francis chose to re-sign with the UFC. Francis then went on to become the first reigning champion to leave the UFC since BJ Penn in 2004. It was after this departure that he admitted to wanting to start a boxing career. Regardless, he didn't shut the door against MMA, and that's why a return seems very possible. Francis signed a multi-fight deal with the Professional Fighters League on the 16th of May, 2023. The deal involves an agreement to compete in their pay-per-view super fight division, while still being free to compete in other sports such as boxing. Like he attempted to do with UFC, but failed, he also negotiated on behalf of his opponents to be paid at least $2 million. PFL gave him more privileges and allowed him to be a part of PFL's Global Advisory Board, to advocate for fighters' interests, and an equity owner and chairman of the upcoming PFL Africa League. His contract was deemed a historic moment for MMA and a big step towards ensuring a better welfare for fighters. On February 22, 2024, it was announced that Francis would make his MMA return against the winner of Renan Ferreira after Renan knocked out Bader within 21 seconds in their match on February 24th. In announcing his return to MMA, Francis said, "I think the fight card is stuck. There's one particular fight that I'm very interested in. It's Romero against Thiago Santos. I think that fight is quite interesting, both very explosive. And then, obviously, there's a man, which is Ryan Bader against Renan Ferreira, my potential opponent, because I think the winner of this is the guy that I'm gonna fight in my MMA return." Francis speaks about his return to MMA and mentions his potential fighters, and goes ahead to reveal more of his intentions. "It's my intention to return to the sport. When exactly, I don't know. I think it all depends on March 8th. Everything depends on March 8th.
I think the fight card is stuck. There's one particular fight that I'm very interested in is Yoel Romero against Thiago Santos. I think that fight is quite interesting, both very explosive. And then obviously there is a main event, which is Ryan Bader against Renan Ferreira, my potential opponent, because I think the winner of this is the guy that I'm gonna fight in my MMA return.
Only a win against Joshua would have truly revealed Francis's next move, given the variety of options he had to choose from. He could have chosen to do both MMA and boxing by fighting both Ferreira and the winner of the Usyk versus Fury match, or he could pick one over the other. However, his loss to Joshua leaves him only with the option of an imminent return to MMA. Both of them are champions, and then they're going to be champ. So I think there wasn't a better way to find an opponent for me, since I'm a champion myself, just in case you're forgetting. As other times, he appreciates his opponents and makes it known that being a champ, he's equally up to the task. "I never thought I finished my MMA career. I just want to chase my dream in boxing, and then obviously I can still enjoy MMA and fight when the opportunity arises. So I'm not done with MMA. I have an intention to come back and fight, put on some show." To be honest, after been doing boxing the way and how complicated is that for me is a new ground, I really have a feeling that I want to go back a little bit in my comfort zone, dominate a little bit and come back. But I just want to do it like I'm creating. Francis reveals that he's never wanted to leave MMA, but wanted to explore boxing before his return. But now, Francis leaves boxing for MMA and may never return ever again. The biggest blessings for the former UFC heavyweight champion in boxing happened to also be his greatest curses. He got a rare opportunity of facing two of the best heavyweight boxers in his first two matches. This opportunity might have seemed attractive and fortunate when they came. But while there were huge financial benefits of the fights with the two Brits, the fights were eventually the reason Francis is quitting boxing so early. With his power punches and techniques, Francis was never likely to struggle against any of the lesser heavyweight boxers in the game. His decision to take on Fury and Joshua is why he ends his dance in the ring even before it starts. The man who ended 7 of his 14 UFC fights by knockout before the 2-minute mark in the first round has been active for 11 years in MMA, fighting a total of 20 matches and winning 17. He started his MMA career in November 2013 and fought mostly in the French promotion 100% Fight, as well as other regional promotions in Europe. While he was there, he had a record of 5, one before signing with the UFC, and made his debut against Luis Henrique, a fellow newcomer in December 2015, and won the fight via knockout in the second round. Perhaps had he fought with a boxing newcomer or a relatively less experienced fighter, he may have had the chance to repeat his UFC fights in boxing and peak the very climaxes of boxing. However, his decision to ignore the newcomers and go after the greats is why he's having an untimely exit from boxing. In his next match, 4 months later, Francis faced newcomer Curtis Blades at UFC Fight Night. He won the fight via TKO due to doctor stoppage at the end of the second round. Francis seems to have a thing for second rounds. Little wonder why he had his first boxing knockout in the second round. In his next bout, Francis faced another newcomer in Bojan Mihajlovic in July 2016 and won the fight via TKO, but in the first round this time. His first win by submission came against Anthony Hamilton on December 2016. With this win, he earned his first UFC performance of the night bonuses. He then faced Andrei Arlovsky on the 28th of January 2017. He won the fight via TKO in the first round, and also won a second performance of the night bonus. In 2017, he set the world record for the hardest punch ever recorded on the Power Cube. At 129,161 Franklin, a unit used by the Power Cube that combines power and energy, Francis faced veteran Alistair Overeem on the 2nd of December 2017, in a match that was the highest profile match of his career. He won the fight via knockout in the first round. This knockout has been labeled as one of the greatest and most brutal knockouts of all time. Following the bout, Francis signed a new 8-fight contract with the UFC. He got his first and second UFC loss via unanimous decisions when he faced Stipe Miocic for the UFC Heavyweight Championship on January 20th, 2018. His second loss came against Derek Lewis in July 2018, a fight that was heavily criticized by the media and the fans for the lack of offense from both competitors and was labeled as a snooze fest. A rematch of the bout between Miocic and Francis for the UFC Heavyweight Championship took place on the 27th of March, 2021. Francis won by knockout in the second round, earning him the Performance of the Night award. He then defended his title against Cyril Gane, the interim UFC heavyweight champion, in January 2022. He injured knee ligaments 3.5 weeks before the fight, but Francis won the fight by unanimous decision, the first decision win of his career. Going through the summary of some of his MMA matches, Francis's skill and greatness can't be denied. His growth in the UFC was organic, and perhaps if he had maintained a similar approach in boxing, he might be on his way to the top. But he started from the top, and as a result, he could only be heading for the bottom. Regardless of the outcome, Francis must be very proud of himself. Despite his humble beginnings in Cameroon, the trauma of experiencing a childhood divorce, his homeless stints in Spain and France, and his virtuous life in both countries, Francis has risen far beyond his limits. He started training for boxing at 22 in Cameroon and went on with it till he got to France and was convinced by Fernand Lopez to try MMA. Francis will return to UFC on an unfixed date in a match against Renan Ferreira, hoping to extend his wins to 18 wins out of 21 matches. He fights against Ferreira for the PFL Heavyweight Championship. Francis's opponent, Renan Ferreira, has a total of 18 fights and 13 victories. His fans can only anticipate the fixed date for the matchup between both fighters. The world of heavyweight boxing, having lost Francis after a 5-month stint, will brace UO for the match between Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk. And most importantly, the Battle of Britain might be the eventual gift that'll be presented to the boxing fans should Tyson Fury defeat Usyk. With or without Francis, actions, moments, and dramas in boxing never cease. Until next time, peace out.